Hi everybody, it's Christina from Pretty Distressed. I'm giving you a full-on vlog style makeover this week because I'm attempting to do someone else's tutorial. I'm going to be tackling the DIY wife's furniture base. This is going crazy right now. Everybody is trying it out and it's finally my turn. So I'm going to be tackling this ugly piece behind me here. So if you want to see this ugly duckling makeover, just keep watching. So this is the piece I will be tackling today. I got this from Goodwill a really long time ago and I thought this was the perfect piece to attempt this base on, but I've honestly been really scared about getting the Craig jig out and attempting it, but I'm finally trying it today. So many people have been doing this, from Katie Scott, Yari at Lily Moon Vintage, my friend the Hansons at Hansons Furnishings, and Andrea is the one that started this whole trend. It's such a beautiful base, and this guy is really low to the ground, so I need to lift him up because he's just really super awkward right now, just a really awkward height. So we're gonna do it. I'm gonna take you to Home Depot. I'm gonna show you all the things, all the mess ups, because there probably will be some. I've never used the Craig jig on my own, so that's gonna be interesting. I have used the circular saw a couple of times, so hopefully that will go okay. It's gonna be interesting. So I've just flipped it on its back to try to figure out where I'm gonna put the base before I build it. And this side is sticking out, this lip is sticking out. So I'm gonna have to sand this down to make this all flush to be able to make the base fit on correctly. So that's my plan right now. So I'm gonna measure from the bottom of here, the bottom of this piece, to the floor to get my measurements for the base. I watched Andrea's tutorial to get all my measurements before I headed to the store to buy my wood. So my closest option that I have is Home Depot. So I'm trying here first to see if I can find the wood that I need. So wish me luck. I was able to find the red oak that I was looking for in here. I only needed about $36 worth of wood, but I did buy a little bit overage in case I messed up. I'm using my Fest tool in its Rotex setting to shave down these sides. This hardware is really dated and I want to give this more of a mid-mod look, so I'm going to remove these and fill the holes. I've got my white lightning solution in my bottle, so I'm just going to spray it all over the piece and give it a good clean. Cleaning is oh so important. It'll get all the grease and residue off here and just always helps for paint adhesion. And with this white lightning, you always want to rinse it after you're done cleaning. My top was bubbling in places, so I took a medium grit sandpaper and smoothed those areas out. I decided to just go ahead and give this whole piece a scuff sand with a 220 sandpaper just to make sure that my paint sticks really well. I had a really deep gouge on the side of my piece, so I'm just mixing up a 2-part all-purpose putty to fill that in. And since I had that all mixed up, I just used this to fill my holes. If you didn't have to repair a big gouge like that, you could just use Dixie mud to fill your holes. That's typically what I do, but I'm going to use my Dixie mud to actually grain fill. Since this is a oak piece, it had some really deep grain and I want it to be more modern and smooth. So I'm going to take my Dixie mud, add a little bit of water, and paint that on to fill the grain. I took a break from my grain filling to sand down my holes once they were dry, and then I grain filled all the drawers. Once my mud was dry, I'm just taking a 220 sandpaper and removing the excess, and you can see that that grain is nice and filled now. I'm also going to smooth out my repair. I'm going to use this attachment to get around my curves. I'm about to cut. I'm just triple checking my length that I have for the base because I don't want to mess up this lip. I'm cutting all my boards down to size from my measurements that I took earlier. If you want detailed instructions on how to measure and cut your base, make sure you check out Andrea's video that I'll link in the description below. I'm sure there's a more technical way to make these angles on the feet, but I'm following the same thing that Andrea did. Just be really careful when you're using the saw and do not have your hand anywhere close to the blade. Oh my gosh, it's pretty close. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. Here's my practice board that I did with pocket holes, and I had a spare 2x2. So this is essentially what I'm gonna do. I just used some practice wood first, and I'm glad I did because I messed these two up. I'm using the Craig Jig K4. This was really easy to use. This is my first time using it on my own. We've used it for some other projects, but I would recommend getting this one if you can because it was just really, really simple to use. I'm gonna do a pair of pocket holes at the end of each 1x3 board, and that's how they're gonna attach to the feet. And then I'm gonna do some additional pocket holes down the side of each board, and that's the way it's gonna attach to the dresser. Again, for more details, go check out the DIY wife's tutorial. Now I'm just going to clean up all that dust I created. This makes a really big mess, and I'm going to give all my pieces a light sanding. I got the fine thread hardwood screws that Andrea recommended, and I'm going to put my base together. Full disclosure, I cracked 2 different feet. I think it would be helpful if you had clamps and did pilot holes on here. I had the fine screws and I did it really slowly, but I'm just used to working with pine that's softer, and oak is really easy to crack. So definitely take it slow with the drill, have it on a low setting, and I think if I were going to do this again, I would use some clamps. So after a couple of setbacks, I finally got my base together. Okay, now on to a part where I know what I'm doing. So I'm gonna just clean off my piece and get it ready to start painting. I am gonna prime this today with Dixie Belle Boss in gray because I'm using a dark color, so a gray primer is great for that. This is just gonna block in some of the old smell that this had. I got this from Goodwill, so I wanted to block some of that odor. And it's also just going to give a nice clean surface for everything to adhere to since I did so many repairs on it. And I'm going to be painting this piece in this beautiful dark green with like a black undertone. This is Collard Greens. I've been wanting to try this color forever, and I think it's going to be perfect for this piece. And I'm using my Dixie Belle Angled Mini to apply this, one of my favorite Dixie Belle brushes. I am going for a modern smooth look, so I have my spray bottle on hand to help smooth my paint out. Okay, day 3, my first coat is looking amazing, so I'm gonna go ahead and put on that second coat. For my second coat, I like to add it to a container and spritz some water in there just to thin it out a bit. I took the drawers out on my second coat just to make sure I was hitting all the areas I needed to.
You don't want it.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. Good idea. Okay. Let's back it up just a little bit.
This way?
Yeah. So that we ever didn't shoot it. Okay. I let that coat dry completely before we flipped it on its back, and then we clamped the base on to get it in place before we started to attach it. Okay, so we think we lined it up good. Very scared. I had these little triangle supports from another piece that I had disassembled in the past, so I put these on the back instead of having to do one long board across the back. That would have just been really expensive. So this was a cheaper option for me, and the base is going to have that nice extra support on the back. I'm gonna seal the whole piece with Big Mama's Butter in my favorite scent. This is orange, and I'm gonna use the best dang wax brush to apply it. I thought maybe you guys are sick of seeing me do clear coat and flat, so I wanted to change it up a little bit. I love using this natural wax on dark colors like this. I just think it's really beautiful. Plus, I wanted to use this on the base because I saw Katie Scott do that. And the way that this Big Mama's Butter makes this red oak look without adding a stain or anything is just absolutely gorgeous. So thank you, Katie, for showing me this tip. Once I'm done applying this wax, I'm just grabbing a black old t-shirt, so it's going to be lint free, and I'm just wiping back any of that excess. I got these fingerless pulls from Amazon that are so cool. So I'm just marking where I want them. These drawers are oak too, so I'm doing some pilot holes on here to help my screws go in. And I'm not done with my Big Mama's Butter yet, because you can actually use it on the inside of drawers that are wood like this to rejuvenate them and freshen them up. Okay, before I do the big reveal, I just want to tell you what I learned. So my number one takeaway from doing this project is I think pilot holes and clamps are going to be your best friend for actually putting the base together. The pocket holes were so much easier than I thought they were going to be. That Craig Jig K4 is really, really easy to use. My first time using it. What else? I guess my only the key takeaway from this is that this was hard. This was hard for me. It took a lot of time and a lot more effort than I'm used to putting into furniture, but it was really fun to try something new. So don't put the pressure on yourself to be perfect the first time you're attempting someone else's tutorial. Things take practice, it takes work. It probably won't be perfect the first time you do it. I have some cracks and splits that I'm not so happy about, but I've learned for next time ways to do things better. So now we're ready for the big reveal. Okay, she's not perfect. I don't even know if she's up to my standards of selling, but I really do love it. I can't believe that I did this. I can't believe the transformation of this piece. I would definitely like to try this again in the future, and I have a lot of experience under my belt now. Thanks again to Andrea, the DIY wife, for sharing this amazing tutorial. Thanks for joining me for today's video. Check out some of my other extreme makeovers before you guys leave. I will be back next week with another project. Thanks for being here, you guys, and I will see you next time.